Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 6 of Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. I'm Kimberly, your host, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. Did You Bring the Hummus is a podcast to help you go vegan. Every 2 weeks, I'll share a 20 to 40 minute episode discussing all things vegan. Most importantly, we'll talk about how to embrace this meaningful decision with fervor and fun. Episodes post every other Monday on your favorite podcast app. Before we get started, I have one very important question for you. Did you bring the hummus? Before we jump into this week's topic, just want to share a fun little thing about hummus. I attended a networking call last week. One of the people I connected with sent me a link from the TSA website about restrictions on hummus for your carry-on. You are permitted 3.4 ounces of hummus or less. I suppose that's fine for a short domestic flight. That could be an okay snack, but I could easily polish off an 8-ounce tub of hummus in one sitting. Who am I kidding? Have you seen those family-sized tubs? I could make that dinner. No problem. My point here, though, is that I'm really glad that TSA understands the importance of being able to have hummus in your carry-on. I simultaneously can't believe that it's already November 9th and feel like I can't believe it's only November 9th. My first Thanksgiving was full of emotion. I was the only one not eating the turkey. And it was so difficult to sit at the table with, the body of an animal there. Now I had this different view on what that meant, right? Growing up in a family where, as many of us have, where animal products are common, to make the body of an animal the centerpiece is not unusual until you start to think differently. So that first year, I was so conflicted. There were so many emotions about the fact that I wasn't eating meat anymore, and also about the tradition and the comfort of eating food that my mom had spent hours preparing, that she poured love and care into. I made a meal that day out of what an old friend at that time called the go-with-its, the side dishes. I had my own stuffing made from that blue bag of Pepperidge Farm stuffing. Got to keep it healthy. It's a mix of wheat and white bread, and some seasonings, just with some vegetable broth, and just baked in the oven. And it was really pretty tasty. A really simple thing, especially if you, like me back then, really didn't know how to cook. My skills have greatly improved since then, but that year I just I had no idea what to do in the kitchen, and so I wanted it to be as simple as possible. So I did. I had this simple stuffing. I had mashed potatoes, made a gravy of just vegetable broth with probably too much cornstarch to try to thicken it up. You really need to throw some poultry seasoning in there, and that probably sounds like a weird suggestion on a Go Vegan podcast, but the poultry seasoning is just that. It's just seasoning. It's different spices. There's no actual poultry in the seasoning. It's just a seasoning typically used on poultry. So it can really give you that traditional American Thanksgiving flavor that so many of us have grown up with. So think thyme, really. I think the seasoning thyme kind of captures the Thanksgiving feel. But so I ate that. I had, stuffing and mashed potatoes and corn and some gravy. And I spent the day back and forth feeling like I was missing out, but that I was doing something bigger, and just a lot of conflict. And some of you may have this. And it was kind of our family tradition was that we would eat dinner early. And it typically was just my parents, my brother, and I, and then, occasionally, depending on who we were dating and how their family structure was, sometimes, a boyfriend or girlfriend would join as well. But for the most part, for as long as I can remember, it's always just been my parents, my brother, and I for Thanksgiving. So we would eat early. My mom would be done cooking around 2. So we'd have the big meal around 2:30. And then we would eat again. We'd have sandwiches, hard rolls, lots of mayo, and leftover turkey. So in my first Thanksgiving after going veg, I thought, how do I replicate that? Because I found I was suddenly having a craving for that sandwich. So I started off by putting mashed potatoes and gravy and corn onto a roll. I don't know if I've admitted this yet, but I am obsessed with bread. I love bread. So any chance I get to eat a really good hard roll, I'm going to take it. So I made a sandwich of mashed potatoes, corn, and gravy, and while it was good, it didn't help that feeling that I had. And so I decided to have a turkey sandwich as I would have in the past. It's hard for me to talk about that, but I feel like it's important because so many of us, especially early in this journey, we have these cravings and we have to face them and we have to understand why it's happening. And it's okay, and honestly, it's to be expected, especially so early in your journey. And so I did. I made the sandwich with a lot of mayo, turkey, salt, and I ate it, and I haven't eaten a piece of meat since then. For me, it was a reminder. The feeling of flesh in my mouth. It took me back to the videos I'd seen, to the articles I'd read, to all of those things that made me decide to stop eating meat in the first place. I don't know if I needed to do that in order to get to that place, but it sealed the deal. It 100% reminded me of what I was doing, why I was doing it, why I decided to stop eating meat in the first place. Every Thanksgiving since, I've tried different recipes, different stuffings, and I've made mashed potatoes different ways. And the trick, I think, to really good mashed potatoes is not just adding the milk and the butter, and I do soy milk is really the milk we always have in the house. So very often, if milk is going into potatoes, it's going to be soy milk. And any of the vegan butters that you like best work just fine. But do yourself a favor and save some of the potato water before you drain them. And depending on how many pounds of potatoes you've made, just save, half a cup, maybe a whole cup, so you have enough, and then slowly add it in as you're mashing the potatoes. It really smooths them out, and the potato flavor is so good. I sometimes will throw garlic cloves in and boil that with the potatoes, and then mash up, as the garlic then really gets mushy too, and mash that up into the potatoes. Or you can roast the garlic ahead of time. Just take a full head of garlic, you cut the top off. If you use oil, you can put a little oil in there. Or if you don't use oil, a little bit of vegetable broth, kind of pour it on the top. Replace the little top of your garlic, wrap it in some foil, throw it in the oven, probably about 400 degrees, 350. And just roast it in there for like 40 minutes or so. And then you can scoop out the cloves of garlic and put that in your mashed potatoes. You can use it to make garlic bread. It kind of just spreads on like butter at that point. It's so good. But anyway, I'm really going off track with the food. But the point, really, in sharing that story with you is that you can and should expect emotions. Maybe you won't have any feelings of wanting to eat something, um, to eat that turkey, or eat stuffing that maybe has like sausage in it or something. Maybe that's not it. Maybe all the emotions are around the fact that you're surrounded by people who have chosen to have the body of an animal as the centerpiece, and you have to sit at that table and you have to be with your family, with your loved ones, and watch them enjoy that. That's something else that becomes difficult, and you have to find a way to be kind to yourself and to be kind to your family, who, some don't connect. So many of us haven't made the connection, right? To how much suffering has gone into that meal. Others are defensive and they'll tell you they don't care, and that's a whole other thing. And I did touch on this a little bit in episode 3, where I talk about sharing your decision to go vegan with your family. You'll probably also be asked questions. Actually, I can almost guarantee it, especially if you are seeing family maybe you haven't seen in a while. They're going to ask you where you get your protein from. Like I said in that previous episode, like, you will quickly develop a response that you'll just use every single time someone asks you that question. So be prepared for that, but be open to the emotions that are going to come up. And even if you're staying home this year and it's just you and your immediate family, so they already know that you've made this decision, it still can be difficult, and there still can be a lot that will come up that day. Are you the main cook? And what is your family expecting from you this Thanksgiving? When I first went veg, I made it very clear that I'm not handling any animal bodies ever again. So I made that clear. I don't wash dishes that have had meat on them or animal products on them. I am happy to dry the dishes that have been cleaned if they need to be. I'm happy to help people put away clean dishes, but I'm not making meals that have animals in them, and I'm not touching anything that's had animal products on it. For me, I made this decision when I was 20. So I was in a position where I wasn't the main cook of a house. There wasn't a family relying on me to make meals for holidays or even, dinner every night. So anytime I was dating someone or living with someone, it was well known that I'm not preparing those meals. So if people are coming to me for Thanksgiving, they know what they're getting. And in fact, I don't even call it Thanksgiving anymore. And this isn't the purpose of this podcast is to talk about going vegan and everything around that. So I certainly understand and appreciate that there are a lot of emotions outside of food that come with this holiday that we call Thanksgiving. And some people aren't celebrating and don't celebrate this, Thanksgiving for that reason. And I totally get that. But for those who do and those who are, I want to make sure that they have some support going into this. So my suggestion, and the reason why I am posting this Thanksgiving episode on November 9th and not the 23rd, which would be a few days before Thanksgiving, is for those of you who really need to prepare ahead of time and who maybe need some support and some help, some ideas, even just to know that you're not alone in the emotions and the difficulties that can come up as the only vegan, at the Thanksgiving table. So, for those of you who are cooking, you do have that choice to make. And are people coming to your home? Is it just the people you live with? Think about what it's going to look like for you this Thanksgiving. And what are you willing to do and not willing to do? And I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that we can change things, to be open to changing traditions. So if in the past you've always made a turkey and that's the centerpiece, and this year you're not making that, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask those who are joining you in your home to try something new. How exciting that we can try something new and that we have the ability to create new traditions, something special for our families, for our loved ones. We don't always have to do what everyone else is doing. And with, being vegan, that's kind of your day to day anyway. We don't live in a vegan world. And so when we have holidays and events, we have moments like this where we have to accept we're doing things differently, and we should embrace that because it's a really beautiful thing. And to expose our families, our friends, our loved ones to this new different way of looking at the world, I think is pretty incredible. And I think to give a holiday like Thanksgiving, that here in America is so centered on violence, really. There's the centerpiece is always a turkey. There's football on in the background in a lot of families' homes. We talk a lot about thanks. I mean, it's in the name, right? Thanksgiving. But if you really look at it, there's so much violence. How can we make this less violent? We can start with our plates. That's why you're here. That's why you listen to this podcast, because that's what you are looking for, to reduce the violence in your life, in your family's lives, in the world. So let's start with that. Let's make this Thanksgiving, or Thanksgiving even, a beautiful day where we truly can give thanks and we can just embrace the beauty in the world and the kindness and compassion that we as vegans are putting out into the ether, into the universe, into the world. I also would love to suggest that you check out some of your local sanctuaries and see if they are offering an option to donate, to maybe adopt a turkey for Thanksgiving. Last year, JP and we adopted the flock of turkeys at Farm Sanctuary. And they give you a cute little certificate that you can print out. It has the turkeys, it has a picture of each of the turkeys on there. And so what we did was we framed it, and we had them with us for dinner that night. We were at my parents' house, and we brought the picture of the turkeys that we had sponsored with us. And that's the best way to have a turkey for dinner, right? You invite them, they sit at your table, and you are not eating them. So every year, the Farm Sanctuary in Watkins Glen, you can find on their website that you can sponsor. You can sponsor one turkey, you can sponsor more than one turkey, or you can sponsor all of them. It's a really fun and great way to donate to the sanctuary as they move into the winter season and certainly need to winterize and help care for the turkeys. And also just to bring some more love to your Thanksgiving table. Woodstock Farm Sanctuary does a Thanksgiving event, and this year they are doing it virtually, so you can watch via Zoom. There are different levels to donate. You get access to different things. But every year they put pumpkins and all kinds of the turkey's favorite fruits and vegetables out onto a table, and they let the turkeys out, and you get to sit and watch the turkeys enjoy their Thanksgiving feast. And it is beautiful and just incredible to see these birds that had suffered so much so early in their lives as babies, really living in this wonderful place where they are so cared for, and they get to have, this big feast and just enjoy life being a turkey in all of their turkeyness. And it's just an incredibly beautiful and moving thing. And it's a wonderful way to reaffirm your decision and to see, these animals being able to live their lives as they were intended. So before I go, just want to spend a few minutes talking about some options that you have for your meal on Thanksgiving. If you want to stay traditional, certainly Tofurkey can hook you up with you can get a turkey roast. You buy the whole package. It comes with gravy and some stuffing. There's also now, if the go-to for Thanksgiving is typically a ham for you and your family, they even make a holiday ham now. I find that at my local grocery store, over in the produce section, where you can also find like tofu and things like that, they typically have that stuff right there in the same case. So those are really easy to find, and I find them, at standard grocery stores. You don't have to go again to, Whole Foods or a specialty health food store in order to find these items any longer. Gardein also makes little, they're already sliced, I think. They're little turkey cutlets, and they have some stuffing in the middle of them. Those are pretty good. And, if you don't want to do that, you can make a cauliflower pot roast. You take a big head of cauliflower and you put it into a pan. You can surround it with all of your favorite roasting veggies, and some potatoes and carrots and onions, and sprinkle a lot of thyme on there and fill the pan with vegetable broth. And then you throw that in the oven until the cauliflower is nice and soft enough to cut all the way through. And then you can kind of cut it into almost steaks, and then that becomes kind of the main focus of your plate. And then you can have things like, you'll have all the veggies that you roasted along with your cauliflower pot roast, and then whatever other filling veggies you want to do. If you're looking for mac and cheese, you can certainly make mac and cheese. There are tons of recipes for making your own cheesy sauces. Again, if you're using Nooch, and that's nutritional yeast, if you're using nutritional yeast and you're new to it, I would recommend you get the unfortified version. The flavor is still the same nutty, cheesy kind of flavor. But for me, I find that the fortified versions have a strange aftertaste that kills the meal for me. So I use only unfortified Nooch. So that's my recommendation to you. You can find it that pretty easily on Amazon. Most of the ones that you find in the grocery store will be fortified. But there are tons of recipes out there, and I'll actually post some on my Facebook page so that you can have a quick reference to some great recipes for things like cheesy sauces. If you're, if you want to make something like mac and cheese, or I'll just throw some recipes on there from various sources and give you a quick reference guide to your Thanksgiving feast. My suggestion to you is to do what feels right. You don't have to have all the traditional Thanksgiving fare. You don't have to replace the turkey. You don't even have to have mashed potatoes and stuffing on Thanksgiving if you don't want to. Here's your opportunity to create something new, a beautiful tradition for you and your family where maybe food doesn't even have to be the focus anymore. Maybe now you do something different with the day instead of spending all morning cooking. Maybe you spend that time with your family. Before I go, I just want to say that I have had 19 Thanksgivings without turkey, and each one has been a little bit different, and they've gotten better each year because I'm learning more. I'm understanding more. I've learned how to cook, and I'm pretty good at it now. I'm more creative in the kitchen. Don't put too much pressure on yourself this year. Lead with kindness, lead with compassion, and know that those who are ready will follow you. Enjoy your vegan pumpkin pie or pumpkin cheesecake. Whatever you're doing this year, lead with kindness, lead with compassion. I hope that you found this episode helpful and inspiring. If you have questions, please reach out to me. You can email me at didyoubringthehummus@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to help you plan the perfect Thanksgiving. Visit my Facebook page for links to recipes and more ideas on how to get through this Thanksgiving. Be kind to yourself. That's the most important thing. Spread your kindness everywhere you can. Thanks for listening.